supply chain management, people talk about the win-wins, trade-offs, but also tensions between the traditional purchasing targets and sustainability, and it is identified as a main barrier for improving supply chain sustainability. But we noticed that in the literature, most of the studies have been taking a supplier's perspective, describing their struggles and how are they trying to deal with the tensions. And then we were asking us, but how about the managers within buying firms? They are the ones driving suppliers to comply. They also have to deal with the tension between cost and accessibility and among other tensions. So we decided to do in-depth empirical study to look into how those managers within buying firms are dealing with the tensions. Sure. We found three main practices that are used to deal with the tension between cost and accessibility. In the first place, we could see that when purchasing and accessibility managers experience tensions, some of them tend to suppress one dimension for the benefits of another. Most of the time, it is the accessibility that is being suppressed. And on the other hand, we also identified that some accessibility managers are trying to synergize those two sides, accessibility and traditional purchasing targets all together. But this practice has a lot of uncertainty, and they're also struggling to really to see real benefits from those practices. The most interesting finding is the third group of practices. We identified them as contextualizing. So those managers are trying to make the standards more applicable in emerging countries like China. So the essential requirements are kept, but the standards are kind of contextualized to make them less costly, so as to alleviate the tension between cost and accessibility. So we identified the third and last practice as the most interesting and most promising practice to deal with the tension between cost and accessibility in emerging countries. Yeah, we think this funding can be very helpful to practitioners. So indeed, suppression of cost is detrimental for supply chain sustainability, and ideally, synergizing or transcendence would be the most promising practice, but it entails a very high level of uncertainty, and contextualizing kind of bridges the gap between them. That, on the one hand, they make the standards more applicable for suppliers to comply, but it can also alleviate the tension between cost and sensibility. So when it comes to message to practitioners, this study shows the importance of that accessibility as well as purchase managers should have the knowledge and qualification of understanding the essence of the standards, but they should also have the right or freedom to adjust the standards to make them applicable in specific institutional and social environments. But we also suggest buying firms to be aware of the downsides of contextualization, because on the one hand, those managers should have knowledge and qualification, but they might also excessively contextualize, and excessive contextualization borders on suppression. So it's kind of trading off accessibility for the benefits of the other requirements. So buying firms should encourage or make investments to make sure that their purchasing and accessibility managers have adequate understanding of the local institutional environment, and then based on the understanding to contextualize the standards, and then based on that to develop certain synergistic approaches to embrace both standards. That would be the core message of this study for practitioners.